public meeting of the City School District of Albany Board of Education. If you'd like to speak in public comment, now is the time to ensure that you have signed up on the pink sheet on the table or on the bleachers at the entrance. There's also copies of the materials that will be discussed this evening, which you're welcome to take. Those documents are also available electronically on Board Docs. The link is easiest to find on the board's webpage at albanyschools.org. We invite you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance if you choose. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In addition to the Pledge of Allegiance, the board always focuses the meeting by restating the mission of the City School District of Albany, which is to work in partnership with our diverse community to engage every learner in a robust educational program designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. Can I get a motion to elect Paul Alloy Chair Pro Tem? Vicki, and second, Ellen? All in favor? Okay, unanimous. On to the election of officers for the 2019-20 calendar year. Motion for nomination for president. Damaris.
This is where I nominate someone.
Yes.
I would like to nominate Ann Savage for president.
Any other nominations? Okay, no other nominations. Motion to elect Ann Savage as board president. Okay, we're unanimous. Congratulations, Ann.
Okay, thank you very much. It's nice to be elected by my peers. It means more to me than you probably realize. So now I'd like to solicit a motion for a nomination for vice president. Is there a motion for vice president? Dr. Chatur.
I nominate Ms. Vicki Smith.
Are there any other nominations? All in favor of Vicki Smith for vice president? That is, yeah, you get to vote too. That is unanimous. And I will take a nomination for secretary, Ms. Krejci.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Tabitha Wilson.
Any other nominations? Seeing none, all in favor of Tabitha Wilson for board secretary? Tabitha, if you would like to vote for yourself, you may. Thank you. That is unanimous. Welcome to the officers, Tabitha. We would like you to now play musical chairs and join us here in the front of the room. We forgot to give her the warning that she had to actually physically move her seat tonight. So it's our tradition on the board to use this organizing meeting, which happens once a year, the very first board meeting of the fiscal year, to allow each board member to give a short statement about whatever they feel moved to talk about the school district and their board service. And our tradition is to do that in reverse chronological order. So we will ask Ms. Damaris Alexander Mann to please take the microphone.
So there's a quote that I've always loved by Shirley Chisholm. It services the rent that we pay for the privilege of living on this earth, and that's really how I've lived my life. And I'm very humbled to be here again. This time last year, I was voted in to finish out a term on the board, and a few weeks ago, I was just voted in again for another 4-year term now, which is fantastic. And I come to the table again with my sleeves rolled up, ready to do the work of a school board member, and I'm committed to engaging in behavior that always being prepared. I'm committed to engaging in behavior of a solid school board member. I will continue to support the superintendent, her cabinet, and teachers and school staff as they work towards increasing student achievement. I want everyone to have an equitable educational experience. I'm committed to engaging in good governance and effective decision making and being held accountable. I look forward to continuing to serve the district, and thank you for your time.
Ms. Krejci.
Thank you. As I begin my 4th full year on the school board, I'm really excited by the team that we have on the cabinet and the board. We've got some people that have worked together for a while now. We've got some new people on the cabinet that are coming on with a great deal of strengths for our district. It's just a really great time. I'm so happy to have Ms. Adams here as our leader, and I'm excited with the progress we're making with the schools as we work toward our mission of having a truly excellent education for every student and continue especially to push that goal of equity for all students in all schools.
Dr. Tutor.
Good evening, everyone. Can't believe it's been 2.5 years on the board already. Time flies, and time flies when you're having fun. It's been surely been a roller coaster ride, but hey, the last couple of years have been awesome. We've had lots of successes to celebrate. We've had Mrs. Adams as a superintendent, and all the wonderful work that she's done resulted in renewing her contract for another 5 years. Just to give you a few salient highlights of what we have done. First and foremost, we actually now have an equity policy. Now, implementation of that policy is going to be our task for this year. We managed to get the budget passed for a 3rd middle school, which will be equitable with the other 2 middle schools, so that's a step in the right direction. Our programs in arts and music and STEAM and STEM have been flourishing in the last few years when the community has actually supported our budgets. Kids have new instruments to play with, and you can see the successes by the trip to France, where our kids played in Normandy. If that didn't bring tears to your eyes, I don't know what would. Phase 1 is almost complete for the high school. Phase 2 will be done by another few months. So we are making great progress, and I fully expect that we'll carry on this momentum into the coming year. We have a lot of work in this coming year, especially with grade configuration, and I'm hoping that the community will support us again, and at the same time they'll tell us when we make our mistakes, because no one is perfect, right? So together we can succeed and push this district in the direction that needs to be in, and all our kids can succeed. They have great potential, so let's make it happen, guys. Thank you.
Ms. Wilson.
Good evening. I want to begin also with a quote. Education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. Malcolm X. So a cliche is that this is a thankless job, but I wholeheartedly disagree. We are thanked in many innumerable, intangible ways, and I want to extend my gratitude to our leadership, our community, families, and students. It is a privilege to serve you all. I am proud of our district and my colleagues. We've made steps toward framing equity through policy. We have an evolving code of conduct and trauma-informed restorative practices. We created a steady drumbeat of awareness about the importance of people taking responsibility for their biases. We have made gains across our metrics. Every year and through each term that I have served, I see great teaching and learning that occurs and incredible leadership at all levels. Sitting here, I can attest that it takes a unique personality, tons of humility, and patience and meters of thick skin to tolerate what we are faced with daily. This is a 24/7, 365 position. But the things our parents and families face are also 24/7, 365 as well. And I can totally relate to why people reach their breaking point in a society that requires so much of you, but gives you so little in return. People are often frustrated, afraid, intimidated, disgusted. They believe everything is broken and don't know who to trust and where to turn, which is why so many aspects of our public interactions, we with us must attend to this very fact, that they're expecting a runaround because that's all they get from everyone else, or they're concerned to be forgotten or not prioritized because everywhere else that is the case. I feel the goal of our work, in addition to policy and budget, is to strive to be the terminus for these feelings and raise the bar in this dimension. That said, I also urge parents, business leaders, political leaders, and community advocates to avoid the pitfalls of an easy blame game, and instead challenge them to join the district in finding ways to support the successful education of all our children. When I say join, I mean be a part of the process from the beginning, not just the intersection where it matters to you. We are all in this together, or as the superintendent has coined the term, the phrase that this means to be all in for Albany.
Ms. Smith?
Okay, I can say ditto to everything that everyone has said. First, I'd like to take this opportunity to say that I am also very honored to be serving. This is the 2.5 years of my second term, but my third and a half, really. And it's been an honor to work with the 7 people, and I must say we miss Jen Lang very much right now already. But we came in a fairly difficult time, but we have grown together and individually as well, and I am so proud of that. We're very focused, we're very, this board works very hard for the community, and we will always strive to do more than 100%, and I'm very proud to have served with them. And I think because of how we've evolved as a board, it allowed us to be in a position to make the right hire for the right time for our district. And so we're very happy to have Superintendent Adams here, and very happy to have renewed her contract. And also I must give kudos to her cabinet. These folks are some of the hardest working people I've ever met in my entire life. And I don't hear them complaining, at least rarely, right? And so that just energizes all of us, and we all accept that we're in this all together for our children, for our families, for our community. And so I want to say again, thank you all so very much. You make this job a lot easier, and while I have no time for really anything else, it's an honor to serve and to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vicki. That was excellent. So I echo everything that my colleagues just said. In particular, I want to emphasize what a fun and rewarding experience it is to be on the school board, because as all of you know, we do miss Ms. Lang terribly, as this is her first day not with us. And we are accepting applications from folks who might like to join us. We will be appointing someone we anticipate later this fall, and applications will be accepted through July 31st. So I would like everyone in this room and those that listen to this by audio tape later to start thinking about people they know that can help this board more fully represent the people of the City School District of Albany and the people of the City of Albany, because this board is most effective when we represent the city the most completely. So that is what we are hoping to do with an appointment and with whoever is then elected this coming year. So I also wanted to acknowledge the many, many familiar faces we see. This is I think my 4th organizing meeting, maybe my 5th organizing meeting, and it has the most consistency in the cabinet and the staff and in the board of any that I have participated in, and that is a really important thing. We know that consistency in leadership is part of what's leading this district to success, that's setting the tone up from the top, that we expect excellence, we deliver excellence from ourselves, we expect excellence up from the superintendent and the cabinet, and they deliver that every single day. And with that expectation of excellence will come through this district, and we will be a district of excellence. That is our vision, and it will come true. And I believe that the consistency in leadership is a big part of what's leading us to that success. Another piece of that is, I think several of my board colleagues have spoken to, is the concept of collegiality and respect. This is a very solid working team, superintendent, board, and cabinet. We all like each other. We all like to work with each other. We all believe in each other. And that sense that we're all working together is, again, something that I believe is infiltrating through the district, through the buildings, and it is changing the nature of what it's like to work for and be a student in the City School District of Albany. Respect for every member of our community, our students, our staff, our teachers, our administrators, all treated with the respect at all times that they deserve because of the excellent work that they do. And we are seeing success. We have an incredible increase in graduation rate over the last several years. And in particular, we see a closing of the achievement gap in terms of graduation rate, especially at the 6-year number. We see a very significant improvement in our ENL graduation rate. We see an incredible emphasis on science and technology in our classrooms, and by that I do not mean computers teaching. I mean access to technology as a supporting tool for teachers so that they can be the best teachers that they can be, and that the curriculum can be incredibly engaging, which we've done in so many ways, but in particular in the science area. And I also want to take a moment to reflect on the fact that over the last 18 months, we have shown that this board, this superintendent, and this cabinet is committed to doing what is right, even when it's hard and even when it's unpopular. And that is what we will continue to do, and that is what's going to make this district be the best it can possibly be. So with that, I'm so looking forward to continuing to work with our new Deputy Superintendent of Business Affairs. Welcome, Ms. Roaring. We're happy to have you here. And we're happy to still have you behind my right shoulder, where I'm not used to looking for you, Mr. Hogan. But it is wonderful to see that transition having happened so smoothly, and we look forward to that. It is truly an honor and a privilege to serve these students and the city, and it is a tremendous amount of fun and incredibly rewarding, which is why you should talk to your friends and neighbors who have the aptitude to serve effectively on the City School District of Albany Board of Education and get them to submit their application. That ends the board's statements. Mrs. Adams, do you have a report for us?
Yes, I do. Thank you so very much, Madam President, members of the board. I would like to start off by congratulating Jen Lang on her new position in the governor's office. As some of you in the audience may not know, Ms. Lang has resigned from our school board to take a job as Chief of Staff to John Majori, who is a senior advisor to the governor about upstate economic development and intergovernmental affairs. Although Ms. Lang is not here tonight, I want to extend my appreciation to her for the 3.5 years she spent on our board advocating for our students, our faculty, and our staff, and our schools. We will miss her. In addition, congratulations to our newly elected officers and our Board of Education. Thank you so very much for your service and your confidence. We deeply appreciate it. Welcome to Kimberly Roaring, our Deputy Superintendent of Business and Finance. This is her first meeting, so welcome. And we thank you for joining our team. I am delighted to report that on 2018-2019 the 2018-2019 school year wrapped up smoothly last Wednesday. In addition to Albany High School's marvelous graduation ceremony on June 23rd, we had a total of 38 promotion ceremonies throughout our schools during the final weeks of June. Many of the ceremonies are captured in photos on the school district's Facebook page, and I would encourage you to look at them if you have not done so already. It is a joy to see the students' excitement at achieving these milestones in their educational journeys. You can find us on Facebook at Albany Schools. On June 26th, the Albany Youth Forum was conducted by Spectrum News Albany with host Tamani Woolley. The district partnered with the College of St. Rose, the YMCA, and D.A. Soares. This forum gave the students the opportunity to speak with adults about things that matter to them. It brought to my mind the quote by the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., "Our lives begin to end the moment we become silent about the things that matter." Our students were very vocal about things that mattered to them. They spoke about mental health, they spoke about substance abuse, they spoke about drug addiction, and they really talked about having people in their lives that they could go to speak with, and how we build relationships with our children. And one of my takeaways serving on that panel with the students was that we as adults have to sometimes take a step back and listen to our children. We have been there, but we are not here in this day and age dealing with the things that they are dealing with. And many of us cannot even imagine what they go through on a daily basis. And so we have to take the opportunity to help them develop their voice and advocate for themselves, but also to be there to listen to them and to support them in ways that we may not agree with, but we also have to respect the challenges that they face. So this was an outstanding opportunity to get to hear students from the Capital Region talk about the real issues that are troubling them, and then think about what are the things that we need to do to assist them, and then move those thoughts into action. Last Thursday, the first day of summer break, I also joined Mayor Sheehan and other community leaders to announce a comprehensive online directory of summer programs taking place in our city this summer. The directory is a terrific resource for our families and provides information about when and where programs are offered. If there is a cost, some of them are a nominal cost, you can learn about it at our website, albanyschools.org. We have this week to catch our breath, and then summer school starts next Monday for all of our programs except Jumpstart Pre-Kindergarten Prep Program, which starts on July 15th. You can find more information about summer school on our website as well. Also, starting next Monday, the school district will once again offer free breakfast and lunch for all children aged 18 and under through the Summer Food Service Program. This year, we will offer summer meals at 9 schools: Abrooken, Arbor Hill Elementary, Eagle Point Elementary, Giffen, Hackett Middle School, O'Neill Middle School, Pine Hills Elementary, Sheridan Prep Academy, and Toast. We will be announcing this information tomorrow to our families via our website, SNN, Facebook, and Twitter. We will also share the information with the media. Finally, a reminder that the district is once again hosting a summer celebration and safety day with Mohawk Ambulance. This year's event will be held on Saturday, July 20th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Lincoln Park. This is the first time summer celebration will be held in Lincoln Park, and we are hoping for a great turnout. Please join us for a day of free food, music, and family fun. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your report, Mrs. Adams. And that brings us to the part of our meeting when we normally hear from the public. Luckily, tonight, for those of us who would like to go home early, no one has chosen to speak today. So normally we invite members of the public to share their thoughts on the decisions we are facing at public comment here, and also by phone, email, or postal mail. Our contact information is available on the district website at albanyschools.org. That brings us to the part of our meeting we call routine consent. During this part of the meeting, we approve routine matters for the district. That usually includes things like contracts, field trips, personnel matters, and the like. We review each of these carefully, and then we vote on them as a group with no discussion. That allows us to use our meeting time more efficiently. Each board member has the option to set aside any routine consent item in order to require discussion and a separate vote on that item. With that introduction, I will now entertain a motion to adopt the routine consent agenda. May I have a motion? Ms. Smith, second by Ms. Wilson. And are there any set-asides? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the routine consent agenda? That is unanimous. Excellent. We're going so fast now, I got to catch up on where I am on my agenda. I
Madam
used to go this
President?
fast.
We have a few
Oh,
announcements.
Mrs. Adams will give me time to catch up on the agenda while she makes an announcement.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. So in this routine consent, we are very excited because we have several appointments that are being made with regard to our administrative staffing. And so first, I believe our folks are in the audience tonight, and we are so very happy for them. Mr. Moultrie, if you will please stand. We would like to congratulate you on your appointment as an academy principal at Albany High School. Congratulations. Mr. Elliott, if you will please stand. Mr. Elliott is now an instructional supervisor for social studies and world language. So thank you so very much and congratulations. And someone new to us who will be joining Albany is Miss Andrea Piper. She is the newly appointed principal at Myers Middle School. Congratulations. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, and welcome, Ms. Piper. We're very happy to have you on board, and to the rest of you, congratulations. This is all good news for the district. That brings us to the policy section of our agenda, and with which I turn it over to Dr. Tutor.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. So today we are basically have, even though the policy memo has a discussion item, since there are no changes, by law we don't have to discuss them, it's just a changing the date of the review. So what we really have in front of us are 7 policies that we discussed last week, or the last board meeting, and today would be the time when we take an action to adopt them. These include 5300, Code of Conduct, 0110, Sexual Harassment, 0115, Student Harassment and Bullying Prevention and Intervention, 0100, Equal Opportunity Non-Discrimination, 6240, Investments, 6700, Purchasing, and 8334, District-Issued Credit Cards. Does anybody have any questions?
Board colleagues, with eye contact, are we feel comfortable with taking these as a group? We can do them as one giant motion. We're going to be out of here in like 2
May I have a
minutes.
motion for adopting these policies?
A motion by Ms. Krejci, second by Damaris. Ms. Alexander Mann, all in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, that brings us to the action, appointments, and designations. There are a number of things that we do every year at this meeting, which is the first meeting of the fiscal year. I am not, as I understand, Mr. Loy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is I do not need to read these aloud into the record as long as they're in the written record. So those of you who are following along on the internet, we have several appointments that we make routinely. These are things like the people who are the clerk of the board, Ms. Sturdivant, who we are happy to recognize in all of her wonder, and how we're so happy to have her here, so she gets a special call out. We indicate which banks we're going to use. We authorize various people, including Ms. Roaring, to be the person who certifies the payrolls, these sorts of things, and we do a $1 million blanket bond. So all of these are listed in writing in section I of the agenda. And so I'd like a motion to adopt all of this good stuff. Ms. Wilson, seconded by Dr. Tutor. All in favor? That is unanimous. We also have a very important and compelling action next, which is the District Comprehensive Improvement Plan, which we discussed at some length at our last board meeting. And today is the day that we would anticipate acting on it. And there is both materials that we saw last time are present and accounted for, as well as the actual signature page, which was not ready last time. So is there, I guess I'm going to do a motion and then we'll do discussion. Can I get a motion to adopt the DSIP? Ms. Wilson, seconded by Ms. Krejci. Is there any discussion? Having no discussion, all in favor of adopting the DSIP? That is unanimous. Which brings us to discussion. As a matter of tradition on our board, we do all of our actions at the beginning of the meeting. Unless something very unusual happens, the board would not be expected to take another action tonight. We would only do things in discussion. And so tonight, we only have one discussion topic, which is the new cabinet operational dashboard, which we've all been looking forward to seeing.
So good evening again, Madam President, members of the board. We are so very excited this evening because we would like to just kind of roll out something that we have been working on for the past 2 years. When we started back in August of 2017, the district and the board worked collaboratively to develop and implement a multi-year educational design focused on a process of continuous improvement in all of the aspects of the City School District of Albany. And so that takes a little bit of time to pull all of those pieces together and to make sure that we are in alignment with our guiding principles. And looking at our vision, mission, and goals, we know that these things cannot be accomplished without some type of measurements or metrics so that we can say, here are the things that we are looking to do, this is what it looks like, and here's what the data is telling us so that we can make data-driven decisions as we look to improve on a continuous basis. And so as we do that, part of that process, as you've just heard, which looks at our goals, these are some of the achievements that we've had over the past few years with regard to each of our 5 goals. And then when you look at the leadership operational objectives, there are 2. Looking at a multi-year educational design, and then also enhancing our business practices and improving the efficiencies within each division and department. And so when you look at those documents, these are the things that establish what our procedures are so that it becomes the way in which we do business. Some of these documents were already in place, some of them had to be created, but yet and still where we are today is that we have documents that we can go to make sure that we are following the proper protocols within our departments and divisions, which then helps us to have a consistent expectation across the board. And so one of the ways that we are looking at accomplishing this goal is moving forward with the development of, this is operational, but we still want to share it out because I do think it's important for you to understand and see what happens behind the scenes to produce some of the data that you will be getting this coming year and know how we are pulling all of that together as we work in this cycle of continuous improvement. So we have what we call our leadership dashboard, and each division supervisor, which would be a member of cabinet, is responsible for their section of this data dashboard, of this leadership dashboard. And so right now we've started with information that is readily available so that we can make sure that we have integrity with the data and we have accurate data that we're using to make our decisions. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Baker to walk us through our leadership dashboard.
Thank you, Superintendent Adams, and good evening, board members. I wanted to start just by turning back to about 2 years ago when we started having conversations about what I labeled our data ecosystem. So I just wanted to put some context to where we are now in terms of the overall dashboard architecture in the district, and remembering that everything here leads to student achievement. So this graphic here just kind of reinforces that idea that we are student-centered, focused on achievement, and also systemic in nature. And one of the things that is debilitating to an organization often is that you rely so much on people and not systems. So as part of this too, we're looking to build in the systems that will be sustainable over time. And for the better part of 18 months or so, you've heard me talk about and probably seen evidence of us working on these foundational elements at the bottom. So understanding how to get access for our staff members across the district to information. We developed a culture, I believe, of data. You'll find that in casual conversation across the district as well. We've also certainly developed capacity to work with data. And so at this point, we're in the middle level, solidly in the middle level, and we're starting to really be able to focus this work on policy decisions, practice, and also evaluating things. We're turning the corner toward academic ROI and other things that are evaluative in nature. So that's just kind of some historical context. And in terms of the development cycle, the research and development cycle over time, our initial work was just creating what I refer to as our internal data warehouse, which is a set of data stores from all these disparate systems that we've had over time to capture and house information. And we're in a place still where we're kind of delivering that information to our users in the Excel-based dashboards. So you can think of a workbook, specialized workbook with several tabs. And each of those tabs serves as a widget in a self-contained dashboard. The goal has always been to develop a more robust, kind of web-based, a lot of the bullets I have on here, system of delivery that does a lot of things for our users, and most importantly, empowers them and is able to scale as we scale. We've added so many components to our current data landscape over the past 18 months. It's pretty incredible. So we've been involved in building capacity to use the information, to develop the culture of commonality, universal use of data, and seeking out through informal, formal demonstrations, a real enterprise-grade opportunity to deliver our dashboard environment to not only our internal users, but ultimately also potentially to public and other spaces. And so what we found in looking at this, interestingly enough, is looking at vendors even in the education space that focus on dashboards, is that most of what they offered was actually that convergence of information, which we had already done. We spent a lot of time on that. And so the phrase, I guess, we're looking for love in all the wrong places kind of applied when we realized that we've done a lot of that work and we already have natively at our disposal a very, very powerful market leader in Microsoft's Power BI. So that's stands for business intelligence, and that's typically what these larger vendors and even these niche vendors provide, is some form of business layer, business intelligence. So we've standardized now on our tool. It is Microsoft Power BI. I will get into some of the reasons we selected that in a moment, but we are now beginning to focus on our first proof of concept using the leadership dashboard to develop our first widgets, so to speak, inside of Power BI, and then we will work to transition the current Excel-based model into the system as well, assuming, of course, that the proof of concept pans out as we expect. And these are just, I'm truly just scratching the surface, just some of the features and some of the reasons that we have made a really good choice in going with Microsoft Power BI. First of all, we can afford users not only the models that we deliver to them and the visuals, but also very easy access to custom visuals, drag and drop style for a user. There's a great amount of publishing available, meaning we can share things in many ways among smaller groups to larger groups and so on. You can even share your own insights that you glean from this information, so not just the things that are there, but your own comments and narratives as well to support things. There's a natural language query kind of a sequence, which really turns out to be a Q&A. You can begin to type in normal language and start to see data results dynamically, which is pretty powerful. There's a native mobile app, which the superintendent already has found great utility in, even though she hasn't really actually used it. There is a native report builder inside of this tool, as well as an export function, so we continue to let people take data as they need it. And it's truly collaborative. Think of Google Docs. You can begin to collaborate in real time with multiple users on objects in here. And then there's a really, really handy, which I can say the superintendent has used, export to feature, where you can, inside of that window, export right away to PowerPoint slides. It includes a title slide and a whole bunch of annotations at the bottom, which is very useful. So to take a look, I'm going to start with a static screenshot. I know it's hard for you to see from where you may be. I've masked this as well, which is why it's kind of static. This represents, from the curriculum division, our walkthrough data. And really what you'll see here is what you will consistently see inside of this environment, in that there are visuals, as I said, that are already created from underlying data. And the layout is delivered based on a model we provide. However, users have the ability to flop things around. There is always very quick access to drill through, and all of these visuals are dynamic, so that when a user makes a selection, all the other relevant pieces mirror that selection and display to you things you're looking for. So just to talk through how this would look, if I clicked on any one of these admins who are labeled generically 1 through whatever, what would happen is that the corresponding objects would then display information relevant only to that administrator, right through all these. So it's pervasive. That choice and selection is pervasive through all the pieces. And if you give me, hopefully if I do this well, 30 seconds, what I need to do now is just connect this laptop to that projector so I can show you the live demo.
So as Mr. Baker is preparing the live presentation for you, just so that you know, all of the presentations that you see delivered by Cabinet, this is the type of information that we are going to incorporate in those presentations each time. We do monitor this coming year. We are going to, there's 9 of us, so each week a Cabinet member will share out their data. One of the things that we've talked about is that even though we all know we're busy and we're working on various aspects of our jobs, how does that data intersect with another Cabinet member? And so what we're starting to do is not just have that high-level view of how we are interconnected, but look at that interconnectedness through our data. And when we're making decisions, then we are more in tune with how the decisions that we are making in, say, one division of professional development may impact human resources, or it may have that budgetary impact that we may not have foreseen. And so this is going to be an operational tool that we are going to use so that we can see that direct interconnectivity, if you will, to help us make better decisions based on the data that we have.
And just to further for one moment, the superintendent's point, one of the steps I glossed over but did have as a bullet item is that we are working with each of my Cabinet colleagues to talk through their data environment. Right now we've populated this proof of concept to begin with information that was provided and already available, but we are going to, I'm confident, save our colleagues a lot of time in helping them to source dynamically. So we'll tie into the source systems for them. We'll obviously perform the calculations that, for instance, I'm just going to use Mr. Peachman as an example. He did an outstanding job of developing his own dashboard, Excel-based, much like ours were. But that was a lot of grinding, if I'm not mistaken, Matt, unless you did something I'm unaware of. So we're now able to roll all of those routines into the processing. So really it allows Cabinet to also now to monitor and use their data as opposed to build it on a regular basis as well. So again, I know this is not ideal for display simply because of the resolution and so on, but what you're looking at right now is one of the elements from the HR dashboard, and this is about the staff composition. And I know you can't read any of it from your vantage point, but over here what we have is a little widget that basically charts the number of hires and Right now, it's labeled terminations, but we would use a softer term down the road for that. You are peeking behind the curtain and you're seeing some beta here. So yes, separation might be the term we will use. And a corresponding chart of that information on the right side is here, and it breaks everything out by our our employee type. So you have MCs, you have APSU, you have APSTA, APSA, and so on. And you'll see corresponding charts down below for gender, for the ethnicity, and then for the unit type overall. And just by way of very quick example, if I click on now just the hires section, you'll see all these other objects now mirror that selection, including the summary table. And what I notice now is about that roughly 70% female group, and it was 30% roughly male group, that when it breaks down, I have a much smaller number of hires. So it's a total of 677 now out of that 2,200 over time. And I could also trace all of that selection through these other components and see how it breaks out in terms of ethnicity and also by the bargaining unit type. And if I just click again, it brings everything back to a default setting. There are some rollovers that are consistent through all these widgets. And again, this is just one layout. People can do all kinds of things here with their own views. But to make something a little easier to see, I can hit the focus mode. It pops up that little display widget into a much larger piece. Pervasive in this as well is the ability to drill down into something, and what that'll do is now shake up that data into another view. You also have the ability to show data, which if you like the table view will roll up just straight numbers for you as well. I'm going to navigate just back to the root object again. And one other feature that I like is, I'm just drilling back up here, it retained that drill through from the prior screen, is using something like this to look at, now I've selected just the APSTA group, and when I choose that, I can easily see the percentages of folks now by ethnicity and by gender related to APSTA, and you probably will not be surprised to see that APSTA is about 73, I believe, 75% female and roughly 25% male. In terms of ethnicity, it's about 84% white, roughly 12% black, and so on. So again, this is a very brief and very general kind of look, but the use cases for this dashboard are truly limitless. We've conceived already conservatively 50 different very valuable quick information pieces. We can easily take any of these and, as I alluded to before, push them through to our web portals for public consumption. You know, any number of groups can have obviously very carefully provisioned access to information the way we like to, and we can begin to, like I said, start to collaborate in real time about data with other folks throughout. I will just pop out very, very briefly to give you an example of that. If I can click here. Maybe I can full screen. Let's try this. Okay. This is that built-in kind of AI, and if I say, you'll see things start to populate as I go. How many apps and ethnicity. Whoops, I don't want to do that. Trust me when I tell you, if I did that properly, it would show you there are 35 black APSA members with the table that goes with it. I don't want to continue on because it will bring up some underlying data which I don't want to expose to the public at the moment. But that is a very, very basic example of the built-in kind of AI natural language feature, which I think will be very powerful for people to transition into starting to really analyze. The one thing we talk about with working with data is that we have a lot of very good consumers, but not many analysts. I don't expect all staff members to be analysts, but in order to make it work at some point, you do have to ask questions and begin to ponder, what these numbers are actually telling you, or to ask, and hopefully now they have the ability to ask your own questions and move the information around to answer those questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Baker. I will say that this is very exciting because I remember when I first sat down with Mr. Baker over a year ago to say, I've got this wild and crazy idea, and here's what I think that we would be able to benefit from. And he's like, well, we have those things in place now, but we need to have a better mechanism for pulling them all together. And he said that he would come through, and as you can see, he has. He's been able to talk to each cabinet member to find what are those salient points right now to get us started. And we are well on our way because you have seen most of this data throughout the year through each of their presentations, and you will continue to see that as we move forward. So our next steps through this summer, we are looking at completing our data sourcing, reviewing the cabinet presentation calendar so that we are on that timeline throughout the year so that you know what's coming up when, and then making adjustments as needed. And then in the fall, Cabinet will progress monitor division priorities and data quarterly. We look to prepare the data for the designated Board of Education meeting so that we can share out our progress, and then that puts us in that cycle of continuous improvement. So thank you very much for your time and attention, and now we'd like to open it up for questions. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you for the fantastic report. We are very excited. We've known this was coming for a little while, but we haven't, I don't think, really had a chance to visualize in any way what it would feel like to see this data be so accessible for people. So it's really an exciting time. Board colleagues, as always, I'm going to ask you to think about what's your very most important question. So we're going to do one at a time. If you have a second question, that's always a possibility for us to go another round. Who would like to go first? Ms. Krejci.
Thank you for the excellent presentation, and also, am I on? Okay. And also, thank you for the background information you provided. I just had a quick question because you were comparing in your chart the user costs of this Power BI platform versus a Tableau platform. And just to get an idea, I think it would be helpful, how many users are we talking about? Are we just talking about one user per cabinet member, or maybe a few more than that?
That's a great question. And so it's not necessarily an apples to apples conversation. I'll try to do my best to make it relative when you look at pricing. In most cases with the vendors, you're looking at licensing based on a straight per user kind of a fee. Since we are already large volume Microsoft customers, we actually have something known as like a client access license built into our structure. So in reality, the number of licenses we require to make this work across the district is minimal. It's truly just professional developer licenses. So I'm guessing if we had 5 total, right now we have 2, and that's all we currently need even. But let's say by some stroke of fate, we build our data team out and there are other developers at some point in time down the road. 5 would cover us, Alan, Ms. Krejci, to answer your question simply. And truly, cost wasn't the only driver, but like I said, when we realized how obvious the solution was that we already had with such a minimal investment, it was really not even close in terms of cost comparison.
And it sounded like because I was thinking, I wonder, it seems like this other thing is more robust, and you get to the end, it says, but the one you're using is much easier to implement, and that's really so critical.
The other thing I'll point out about that is if you really read through the differences in those, it will I assume you're talking about the Tableau product.
Yes.
Yep. And so Tableau is incredibly robust. It is also so powerful. It's really geared toward true analysts and psychometricians. Like it's a much more powerful tool. Not only is BI more intuitive, but it's geared more toward exactly what we need to do, which is provide digestible analytics to a large user base.
Okay, thanks. And the other thing I just didn't know, just for context of scale, is you talk about Power BI having a limit of 1 gig of data. So I guess it wouldn't be expensive to switch to Power BI Pro if you needed to.
So that's a great question, again, and we've already done that. So that review is really based on a general retail consumer. We already have a Pro Power BI environment, and what's also very nice, and I didn't really touch upon, is the fact that we always have concerns about clouding this kind of information. This is our most sensitive of data, and almost every other option is clouded. This affords us the hybrid. These data never actually leave our district. They sit and reside in our warehouse. The only thing that's transmitted is the actual objects that you see via the browser, and it's all through SSL, secure socket layer. So it's as secure as it can get, in addition to already being kind of in our shop. So
Thank you so much.
I'm just going to take a minute to go next because Mike Elliott is trying to sneak out the back door, and I'm thinking about him because one of the first opportunities I had in this district to see how data was presented and was manipulated was working with Mike many years ago on the Curriculum Coordinating Council, which we talked about last week. And at that time, I think Mike and I both agreed that we were spending the time building the data instead of the time consuming the data. And so that was only, maybe 4 years ago, so approximately. And so it's just a very nice, for me personally, to have you in the room as we make this big transition to expecting our teachers, who are teachers and excel in teaching, to be able to also be data builders and data analysts, to a place where they can instead become consumers of data built by professionals to be able to be useful. So sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to call you out on the fact that you were sneaking out, but I thought it was important to recognize that moment. Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt our normal flow. Who would like to go next? Dr. Chatur?
This is great. So this is data mining, right? It's data mining is only as good as the database that you mine from. So how do we make sure that the data that is going into the database is clean? And I'm guessing that this is going to be across departments, that you can access it. So every department using, like payroll uses a different software for managing that. So what are your challenges and solutions that you've thought of?
Yep, it's twofold, and I had this conversation with the superintendent earlier today, as a matter of fact. And so we have data integrity as one challenge, and then ensuring data integrity, and then also the overall quality control. And they are related, but somewhat different. So in terms of data integrity, we're pulling obviously from source systems, as you pointed out, many disparate standalone systems. So what we typically do is audit the raw table files or rows. And so we'll look at the native reports and the actual elements that reside in, I won't take financial system because that is a little bit different, but NWA, for instance, let's say. And we will do audits that compare the data that reside in the tables as well as the reports that are produced in that system, and stand that up against what we're seeing in our warehouse tables inside, the ones that have been transformed into our data layer. So those are kind of basic one-for-one checks. We also will run a lot of these things up against what we report to the SED, which is our true measure of record, basically. And they're basic sanity checks again to determine if what we're producing inside of our warehouse and our analytics are also consistent with the native exports that we produce to send this information to the places that also need it. On the quality control side, that's more of a function of calculations and mathematics. So it's really just checking those queries. The queries it's the language that's used to kind of compile these things, and so they result usually in numbers and quantities. So it's a matter of just running mathematical checks on those outcomes for the most part. So that's kind of the front end QC of the data accuracy on that level, if that answers the question.
Ms. Smith?
This is just like amazing. So thank you and staff for that. Oh, wow. I just had a question about the public presentation of this. will this be laid out slightly differently? I mean, I imagine that just like internally, we have a variety of skill sets and experience, but with the public, you want to be able to make sure that all the folks out there can make use of the data. So did I hear you correctly? There might be some reports that will automatically be kind of right there, but then there might be some data that those who are more experienced could manipulate. Could you just help?
Do you want me to start with it?
Yeah.
Yep, another excellent question. And so this was a bit of a calculated risk in demoing for you, a data set that I knew what the underlying data were, but the simple answer to the second part of your question is that we would never provide anything publicly available that was not de-identified aggregate information. So Vicki, you're familiar with, and maybe others are, the New York State data site. And good, bad, or ugly, I was a part of developing that system when I was there. And so I would leverage that exact model to replicate for our public consumption.
So my question is about whether this tool is going to allow us to look at over time changes, because that's really the thing that the board overall looks at. This is what it is today, but how was it yesterday? How was it a year ago?
Yes, almost every single, well, not only is it longitudinal data, but almost every single widget we put out there has a filter or slicer for year selection. And so we roll in as much legacy data as we have access to in all these cases. Even the one screenshot, I think, in your presentation, you'll see at the top has like a year 19 showing. So you can choose a span of years, you could choose one individual year, you can do a side-by-side, having that ability to actually look at those in isolation, or compared to one another in isolation. So the basic answer is yes, we are building in the framework to allow for this kind of longitudinal comparison.
Okay, because that'll be very helpful for us, because that's really the question I think we ask most, and it's the question that's been the one that hasn't always been easy, because staff are working in the day, right? They're just trying to work through succeeding for students who are in front of them, but our job is to look at how are we doing compared to yesterday and what's coming. Anybody have another question? Ms. Wilson. Okay, everybody's good. Then I have another question, which is, this is actually about the student warehouse, data warehouse, which I know is not technically the topic today, but you're in front of me, so I get to ask a question, which is, I know we have in the student warehouse, we have test scores and grades and Vader numbers. Do we have participation information in there about the clubs and activities and sport teams and all that stuff that kids participate in? Is that on the roadmap somewhere?
So we do collect a lot of that internally. It's not something we are required to send to the state education department. But yeah, we have a number of activities tracked within the system currently.
But in terms of the data warehouse that we use,
Yes,
that we
I'm sorry,
use
I was thinking New
internally,
York State.
yeah, no, I'm talking about the one that we use internally, where we look at our at-risk kids and see, who should we be paying special attention to. Do we include that kind of extracurricular information in that?
So we do have information right now in our current Excel dashboard environment that includes participation in extended day programs, certainly. We have information about, and I'm going to forget some things, participation in other clubs who have requested for us to help support them in tracking things. So nothing truly is coming to my mind, but I can absolutely guarantee you that we have information there about the formal extended day programs right now for sure.
It just seems consistent with the philosophy that the board has presented over and over again, that we believe kids are in school, and that having them in school and engaged in the activities around school really helps get them through some of the hard times. And so it's just was interesting to me to know whether we're actually tracking that, because we believe philosophically that you get a kid in music, you get a kid in sports, you get a kid in art, and they make it through whatever it is that's tough for them academically. Ms. Smith.
And maybe you're getting at this. So the public or the board, whoever, we would actually be able to look at this information by building.
That's
right?
correct. Almost all of these as well are.
Right. And so that brought to mind, like we've always talked about, we don't know what sports are going on over here or over there, but here's a quick way for the public, as well as any other person that wants that information to access it. Okay.
If you don't mind, one last comment, just I think it's a statutory comment for me, is this is tier one of this implementation. The things we're talking about are truly possible, and many of them are very practical, but this is, like anything else, an 18 to 24-month full implementation cycle.
We don't expect it tomorrow. We don't. Dr. Chatur.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, in about a year, 18 months or so, it would be logical to imagine a system where I'm looking at NWA scores for a particular school, and I see things are going up or things are going down. I can drill down and see what's the teacher turnover. You can tie in all those different components and try to understand what is it that is affecting the education curriculum of that.
Yeah, that's a great use case, and so yes, you can view that information. The conclusions and the analytics are partially on you, but yes.
Anybody else with another question? So then my last question is sort of tying together Dr. Chatur's last comment and your hint about the possibility need for more licenses. Quality assurance is a non-trivial factor, and if we need more staff to make sure that the data is right, I know that we're building this essentially in-house, right? We're using a tool to build our own thing instead of buying a thing off the shelf. And that has risks to it, and those risks need to be mitigated. And I trust your judgment, and I know you've made a good choice on doing this, but I do not want us to underspend in order to make sure we get the cheapest possible and then regret it. We need to make sure if we're doing it in-house, we need to have the staff and the capacity and the skills to make sure that the queries are done right, the data entry is done right, the data warehousing is done right, and that it all comes full circle. And that is the hardest thing for people to spend money on, right? Because it's really hard to say, I'm going to have an extra staff person whose job is just to make sure that it's right. That's a really hard sell, but it's a really critical sell, and we could go very, very wrong. As most of you know, I'm a technologist myself, and when you are doing something by hand, if you accidentally put the wrong number in the wrong spot once, it's not a huge deal. When you're using a computer to do it and the wrong spot goes in the wrong number, or the wrong number goes in the wrong spot a million times before you realize it, untangling that is a disaster. And so I ask you to think very deeply and carefully about what you need to make sure that this is done with excellence.
I very much appreciate that, and I'm certainly not cheap. I'm not even frugal, but I'm strategic, and so the ask will be there. And like I said, I truly, to your point, look to spend where it is most critical and where we have the greatest global impact on the systems.
Anyone else? Comments, questions? Am I correct that that's the last item on the agenda? All right. Okay, and yes, thank you very much. It's a miracle to be here. I mean, I should say one more thing. You said something like, I've been working on this for a long time or something. You haven't even been here a long time. You've only been back in the district in this role a couple of years. This is a miraculous level of productivity in a very short period of time. So thank you very much. I didn't mean to undersell that. And now, a motion to adjourn. Ms. Smith, seconded by Ms. Wilson. All in favor? That is unanimous.